New show every week, new set, still me. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, boom. Welcome to the very first edition of Early Years Weekly, the same light breakdown of the most important early years news, but instead of just once a month, we're going to be coming to you every single week. We're going to be doing this exclusively on YouTube, so if you do want to keep updated with the most important early years news, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, without further ado, it's time for story number one. September, we all know what that means. For term time settings, it's the start of a new school year, and with it, this time, a new Ofsted framework. Of course, the framework and the early years handbook have been released officially now, along with a safeguarding document. But this week, we've also seen some great cheap resources from Pacey and the Early Years Alliance, all helping you understand how to implement the new Ofsted changes and what they might change at your setting. That's stuff like the implementation impact intent things, the cultural capital, what that really means, the new pedagogy understanding that perhaps your practitioners are going to have. And this is all some stuff that we want to cover in a few guides that we're going to bring out later on in the month. We're going to be talking to experts and some earlier settings about how they're making the changes and hopefully producing some great free guidance for you guys too. Yesterday, I read a great piece in Nursery World from Nancy Stewart and Helen Moyler, the original authors of Development Matters. Now, they were talking a little bit about the EYFS and the proposed changes to Development Matters, which is going to be written by Julian Grenier for the changes which will become statutory in 2021. They gave some great insider information about the fact that we've got this relatively small committee, that they're not meeting that often, and that it's really not clear at the moment who or how they're going to be engaging wider experts. This is something we want to cover, so we're definitely going to be talking to a bunch of experts about what they think they want to see when the changes come into force in 2021. It's been a pretty big week for education outside of the early years this week, with first leaked in The Guardian and then officially released plans for increased funding from the government. Now, the big marquee sum here is $14 billion over the next 3 years. They're talking about increased pay by 2022 up to a starting salary of £30,000, but also some worrying stuff like in the leaked documents that was not necessarily shown in the kind of official release, like they want to slash teaching assistants, they're talking about allowing teachers to use reasonable force for bad behaviour, and certainly some stuff that the unions have been a bit concerned about. Most worrying for the early years, absolutely no mention of the early years and the funding at all in any of these leaked documents. We'll find out more on Wednesday when we have the official announcement of the budget, but right now it's certainly not looking promising for the early years. A big story over the last couple of weeks in the early years has been this appallingly titled Train Your Baby Like a Dog show from Channel 4. We wanted to go a little bit deeper now that it's actually been released and shown on TV. And so we had Sue Asquith, who's an early childhood consultant, talk to us about her thoughts on the show. Now, I think there's lots of worrying things about the name of this show, the trailer. There's obviously some problems with the kind of compliance clicker training that they talk about. But actually, as Sue points out, there is some good things in the show about how we should see behaviour as another form of communication and how we need to listen more to our children. Regardless, I think that the title of this show is another sad sign of where we are with childhood and modern childhood. The idea that you would have a show like How to Train Your Wife Like a Dog or How to Train Your Elderly Father Like a Dog, as Juno Sullivan points out in her blog, is quite far away from being acceptable. It's kind of sad that it feels like children are put on a different situation. I wanted to highlight a great article I read this week from friend of family, Dr. Sue Allingham, all about getting EYFS home visits right. As usual, you can see it in the description below. She talks about the importance of being flexible, that it's not just a chance to fill out forms, it's actually a chance to get to know the child's home learning environment and understand the kind of situation that they're coming from, build those relationships with parents and build the relationship with that child nice and early. Wrapping up, we've got an announcement from our friends at Cedar that they're going to be launching a great new initiative to try and help with the recruitment crisis in early years. Now, they say before we can do any good campaigning and getting more people into the sector, we need to understand what got people in the first place. They're going to be surveying existing staff, talking to school leavers and other potential recruits about what might inspire them to get involved. If you want to hear more about this, then you can sign up to their newsletter to get updates and hopefully take part. I think this is a great first step in the journey to doing a broad campaign to get more people into what is a fantastic sector. That's it for the first edition of the Early Years Weekly. As I said, we're going to be doing this exclusively on YouTube, so if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button to get notifications straight to your inbox. Next week I'm going to be joined by the lovely Ruby, who's going to be helping talk through all the most important early years news with me. And if you like what you see, don't forget to leave a comment or like and let us know what you think, and we'll see you again next week.